Copyright 2016 Dell Suite. Prologue. New York. 12:30 a.m. Carl Evans watched from the mouth of a dark alley. It was one of the things he loved about this place. You could hang out in an alley, smoke cigarettes all day and night long if you wanted to, and nobody said a word to you. Where else but New York could that be true, he asked himself. He leaned back against the wall, one sneakered foot propped on the brick behind him to hold him, the other flat on the cobbled stones of the alley. Another thing about New York, he thought, as he inhaled deeply of his cigarette, and then let the smoke roll slowly out of his mouth. Old things everywhere you looked. These cobblestones, for instance. He wondered how old they truly were. Young man. The deep voice startled him from his thoughts. He lifted his head to see an old, gray-haired gentleman standing at the mouth of the alley a few feet away. His face was creased and seamed. His skin so dark it was nearly blue. A cane in one hand supported his weight. "What's up, Pops?" Carl asked politely. The man placed his second hand on his cane and leaned forward. "That cigarette will kill you." "Pops?" He held up one hand as Carl began to speak. "Just telling you. Don't need an argument. It will kill you. The big tobaccos, they knew about it back in the day when I was a boy chasing that habit. And they knew about it when it was in commercials in magazines and TV and whatnot. That cowboy died from it, you know. They knew it and they still know it. It will kill you. In case you didn't know it, I wanted you to know it." He straightened his back, lifted the second hand, nodded once, and moved across the mouth of the alley, disappearing as though from some sort of magic. Carl chuckled, lifted the cigarette to his mouth, took a deep drag, and then found himself blowing the smoke out, dropping the cigarette and crushing it. The old man had ruined it for him. He hadn't smoked in 10 years, but it tasted as good now as it had then. And he had figured with the way things were, nobody had much time. Certainly not enough time to die from cancer or some other nasty surprise from cigarettes, but just the same the old man had ruined it for him. He looked down at the blackened mess he had made as he ground the cigarette into the cobbles. Just as well, he told himself, it was time. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small silver canister. He inhaled a sharp breath involuntarily. He knew what it was. Knew what he was doing. But he still couldn't believe he was actually going to do it. He fingered the small red button on the top of the silver canister, hesitated, and then pushed it down. Something inside clicked. There was no other sound in the stillness. He tossed it down the alley, turned, and walked out to the sidewalk. 1. Bear. August 4th. We were down along the river checking over some old buildings that are perched on the cliffs there, high above the water. Fall was not far away, and we knew we had to get moving, get out of this dead city. We had half the country to cross and find a place before winter came back around again. We had struck out looking for food earlier that morning. With the park and its crowds so near to us, the shops and small stores for blocks around us were stripped clean. Another reason to get out of the city. It was time. I remember thinking that as I walked along. I was thinking back to March as I walked. Not really paying attention to the walk, where I was going. March. Just a few months ago, but the world was still the world then. And for the next little while there, we didn't even know about the dead. Dead was still dead. When you closed your eyes for the long eternal sleep, you didn't wake up a short minute later as something else. No. We were ignorant up until they decided to come after us. Ignorant. Stupid. Didn't know a thing. Didn't have a clue. I had been in Central Park a few days after the first earthquakes hit. I had left Anita alone and went down on my own to see what the deal was. I found out nothing. No one knew any more than anyone else. There was a lot of speculation, but that was it. There had been earthquakes. It had rained hard for nearly 24 hours straight. The really freaky stuff hadn't happened yet. We were just starting down our new path, but what was clear was that thousands of people had died in the city, maybe more than thousands, maybe 1 million or more. And certainly millions if the damage here was the same across the country, or worldwide. And my initial estimate turned out to be a kind. In the city alone, collapsed buildings, fires, exposure to the elements because there was no shelter. There were millions of bodies. It was not so bad in those first few days, but a few days later, when the smell of the dead rotting under the rubble began, it was horrible. The diseases started then too. And the diseases took thousands more, and we thought that was the end of it, but it was not. The dead came next. The same dead, newly risen to some other sort of life. But that day in Central Park, the first did not know about the dead yet. I had no idea what was ahead. What was before me was bad enough. At 6'3" and nearly 290 pounds, I don't usually fear much. But that day I did. I realized there are some things you had better fear if you have half a brain in your head. It didn't matter that I could walk through Central Park unmolested. Something was on the wind, something that didn't care who it touched, did not respect physical size. I walked through the park. There were hundreds there already. In the coming days, those same people began to make the park home. But that day they wandered aimlessly in shock. The subway was shut down, the buses. You could not find a cab. The same with the cops. Everything that was the same about the city, the things you could depend on to be the same day after day, were gone. A few short days and they were gone. No more. And it had a feeling of permanence to it, a feeling of doom. I sat down on a bench and watched the people shuffle by. No noisy kids. No babies bawling. No joggers. No dog walkers. Hopeless people shuffling by. The occasional panicked whack job running around crazily. I saw no one shot that day, but in the coming days, they, the hopeless ones, began to shoot the crazies, chase them down and kill them. But that was later. That day I sat on the bench and wondered what had happened, and that was when the planes had overflown. We all heard them from a long way off, military cargo planes. Slow, sometimes seeming to hang in the sky. That droning sound as they overflew, blocking the sun from the sky. This was no flyover to see how New York was, that much was evident immediately. I was torn between running and needing to know what this was. Once you start down that path of just reacting to fear, it gets bad fast, so I sat there as calm as I could be. They will not drop bombs, was my thought. I remember it. And they didn't. What they did was spray the entire city. Trails of blue-tinged vapor drifting down out of the sky. That was the first time. I finally did give in to the fear and took off through the park, thinking, like nearly everyone else, that it must be some sort of poison. The government's solution to whatever it was that was going on in the city. We didn't know what the blue shit the government planes sprayed us with right after everything went to hell was. And I am still not convinced I know all there is to know, but I suspect things. I have been told things. I met a guy a few weeks back that said he worked at the army base over in Jersey. He said he knew what it was. He said the planes came from somewhere down south, but stopped there on the way back to refuel. What he told me was it was designed to strengthen us, keep us alive a little longer, and make us stronger somehow. Some dipshit scientist's idea. I suppose it was meant as a boost for us, a help. The world slowed down, fell apart, everything stopped working. They knew they couldn't get to us. We would die. So they sprayed the blue shit on us, and I could suppose further that some of us survived the first few months because of it. I can't prove it, but I suspect it did help us evolve into. I don't know. Whatever the hell we are now. I know we're alive. I know our hearts beat. I still feel human, and I truly think I am still human. If it made changes to the living, they are very small changes, at least so far. But the dead, oh, the dead. That's a different story. It did something else to the dead. I walked along now thinking my thoughts. I was lost in them, I'll admit it, right back in March for a few seconds. But I came back fast. We were right in front of a line of cliffs that overhung the river, spread out a little. At least I was. It's funny how you can forget to be careful so goddamn fast. It was somewhere past midday when they came for us.